What was happening? Why did you come into the hospital?
Affecting roughly 5% of the global population, depression is one of the most common mental disorders. It is also one of the leading causes of disability and contributes to the overall global burden of disease. Symptoms can include sadness, a feeling of emptiness, poor concentration, lack of appetite, disrupted sleep, and low self-worth. This unnamed patient has recently checked herself in to be treated for depression. With these introductory questions, the psychiatrist will make a diagnosis and determine the best course of therapy and medication.
Were there some problems? What were some of those problems?
I was having some problems believing in myself.
I'm sorry?
Believing.
Believing in yourself? In what way?
You know, I was depressed and...
Can you tell me something more about that?
I wasn't working.
Had you been working? Was that a change?
Holding a job can become difficult or even impossible with depression. Sometimes, this is because the inability to focus and the lack of energy to put into projects results in being let go. Other times, a crushing sense of hopelessness results in the person feeling like there is no point, and they end up quitting themselves. Annoyingly, this feeds the depression, as the person then feels like a failure, and they add it to the seemingly endless things they perceive to be wrong with them.
Well, I graduated from college. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I went to Colorado.
How much time did you spend in Colorado?
7 months.
Were you working in Colorado?
I was a waitress, but I quit.
Why did you quit?
And why did I quit the job? Because I decided to go see my boyfriend.
Where was he?
He was, here in Indiana.
Did you move in with him?
Yeah.
How has that been?
Not very good.
Another common side effect of depression is the inability to form and maintain close relationships. Often the person begins to tell themselves that they are a burden on their loved one, and that the other person will be better off without them. Usually this results in one of two behaviors. The first option is that they will become dependent, constantly needing reassurance and feeling as though the other person needing space or time to fulfill other obligations is a rejection towards them. In the second option, they become withdrawn and uncommunicative, assuming that rejection is inevitable, and try to minimize the hurt they are expecting to feel. Regardless of the other person's feelings or efforts, it is almost impossible for these relationships to survive and thrive without intervention.
You said before that you're living by yourself now. Did you move out?
Yeah.
When did you decide to do that?
About a week ago.
Did some major event affect that decision?
There's always something major surrounding any decision, isn't there?
Well, was everything going smoothly before you moved out?
I don't think it was going real smooth. I don't think I really tried hard enough at making the relationship work.
But you felt everything was okay when you first moved out? Was your mood depressed then?
I don't know, I guess I was depressed.
When would you say things in your life changed? That you noticed a difference in your mood?
Difference in my mood?
Mm-hmm.
My moods always change, don't yours?
Yours always change?
Yeah.
How do you feel now? Is it like you might feel if someone close to you died?
No.
How is it different?
Just is.
Those with depression often struggle to articulate how they feel, especially when it comes to describing depression itself. Because of this, it's important to note their body language and mannerisms to better recognize when they are slipping into a deeper state of depression. This can help to identify depression early so treatment can be obtained. In the video, you will notice that the patient seems listless, with dull eyes and very little vocal inflection. At any moment, it seems as if she could burst into tears. She has a hard time putting words to her thoughts, and she sits with her body hunched and drawn in on itself. She rarely, if ever, makes eye contact. It's almost as if she's willing herself to be as invisible and unimportant as she feels.
How?
When my grandmother died, I just felt sad. Now I feel useless and ashamed.
Is there a time during the day when that feeling is worse than other times?
When I wake up, lying there in my bed, sometimes I just can't bear it.
After you moved out of your boyfriend's place, did you find a place of your own or move in with friends?
Moved in with a friend.
Are you trying to find a place?
Not really.
How do you see your future?
I'd like to.
Like to find a place?
Mm-hmm.
How do you see your situation? Do you see things getting better?
No.
How have you been spending your time lately? What do you enjoy doing?
Nothing really.
How would you say your energy level has been?
Down.
Have you been eating?
In the past month?
Mm-hmm.
Not really.
Have you had much of an appetite? Have you been hungry?
No.
How has your sleep been? Have you been sleeping?
Not really.
Lack of interest, lack of energy, and lack of appetite. Most people cannot comprehend how doing so little can be utterly exhausting. They don't understand how much emotional energy it can take to perform the most minimal tasks, how just existing feels like it is taking all of your strength. But it can be terribly frustrating and confusing to become disconnected with interests and people who once brought you joy, and the depression will tell you that it is all your fault. The absence of interest and any other type of distraction is dangerous too. At that point, the depressed person feels untethered, believing that there is no reason for them to continue to exist. This is often when thoughts of suicide or self-harm are most likely to occur.
Do you worry very much?
Yeah, a lot, I guess.
What kinds of things do you worry about?
Oh. Just normal things.
Do you blame yourself for something you've done or something you haven't done?
Yeah.
What things do you blame yourself for?
Oh. For not always doing the right thing, you know.
Are you down on yourself?
Yes.
Would you describe yourself as worthless, as a failure?
Could say that.
Is that how you feel?
Mm-hmm.
Why did you decide to come to the clinic?
The second patient has dysthymic disorder, also known as persistent depressive disorder. It differs from major depression in a few ways. PDD can last for much shorter periods and in some cases may go away entirely. Sometimes it is triggered by a traumatic or life-altering event, and when that situation is resolved, so is the depression. Those with PDD are also able to function in day-to-day activities, although they are unable to feel or express joy. However, this does not make their illness any less real or potentially dangerous than those with a major depression.
My husband talked me into coming. I just don't seem to care about things anymore, and I was withdrawing.
In what ways have you been withdrawing?
In most cases, someone with depression is unaware of their condition. Often it is noticed by a spouse, relative, or close friend. Without the intervention of a loved one, many people go untreated.
Oh, avoiding making decisions, and not talking on the phone, not leaving the house.
When did things begin to turn for the worse?
They had been going downhill for quite a while, but in the last 3 or 4 months is when I really started isolating myself. Before that, I fought it. Then I just didn't fight anymore. I was more comfortable staying at home.
When would you say everything was at its worst?
Well, just before Thanksgiving.
Had there been any changes in your life around that time?
My position in the church. I guess.
Can you explain that to me?
Well, there was this incident in the church. They had a ball team, and my daughter was on the ball team, and she threw the bat, and the ump said she was out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the coach and the ump and her father were all over her, and they had made Amy so angry that she yelled, "I hate you, ump." And then some of the other girls on the team said they didn't want her anymore. Well, I stood up in church one Sunday night and I said that if Amy wouldn't come back to church, it was because of that episode, and I blamed the girls who yelled at her. And the girls were the preacher's daughters. Ever since then, I've withdrawn from that. And the kids never came back and said anything to Amy.
Based on what this patient is saying, we can safely assume her depression was triggered by an event. Previously, while she might have had some genetic or otherwise predisposition, she was always able to stay in control. This event has caused her to spiral downwards, becoming isolated and withdrawn. It is, however, a positive sign that she can recognize these things clearly. This can make treatment easier.
Everything's just a mess.
How would you describe your mood around Thanksgiving?
No mood at all. Just nothing.
Would you describe that as being numb?
Possibly. Just existing. I do that quite well now.
Do you blame yourself for things you have or haven't done?
I think we all do. Yes.
Do you feel guilty about those things?
Yes.
Do you deserve punishment?
I don't quite know how to answer that. Whether I deserve punishment or not, I think I got it.
Are you down on yourself?
Yes.
What is your opinion of yourself?
I'm like a wallflower. That's how I kind of feel.
Do you see your situation getting any better?
I want it to. But I just see my family moving ahead without me. And I'm just a wallflower in the corner.
Sometimes when people feel depressed, they think about dying. Have you had any thoughts like that?
Well, sometimes I thought I'd be better off dead.
Have you tried to harm yourself?
No, I'd be too afraid to hurt myself. And I wouldn't want to make things any worse than they already are.
A sense of isolation is dominant, and feelings of better off dead, a very common feeling for those with depression. There are a few positive points though. She still has a fear of causing herself pain. Many reach a point they no longer care. And she realizes that killing herself would make her family's situation worse. As disconnected as she feels, she still sees a reason to keep living and expresses a desire for things to get better. With time and proper treatment, there is a good possibility for her situation to improve.